What's up YouTube, Casey here, and today we're going to be doing a review for Cyberpunk 2077. This game, man, has made headlines for the last 2 weeks, however long it's been out, and there's a lot to say about it. So let me just start off by saying I played this game on the Xbox Series X, and I've experienced it right at the beginning of launch and then post the first patch. So that's going to be my experience with the game. I played through the main story of the game, and I've played about 27 hours of it. So that's my experience with it, and I'm going to be speaking from my own experience. And then I can give my opinion on the concurrent situation and how that would weigh in with the score afterwards. But let's just start off with the story. Cyberpunk 2077 takes place in, as it says in the title, 2077. You play as V, a mercenary that goes into this lifestyle depending on which life path you pick. You meet a cast of characters, and long story short, you end up with a chip in your head that has the mind and embodiment of Johnny Silverhand, a real life character in this game world who has not been alive for a while. And it's up to you to figure out how to get this chip out of your head because it's slowly killing you. The story itself for me was really compelling. You meet such a wide variety of characters and make such varying relationships with them that it keeps you intrigued. Not to mention the different plot threads, the different scenarios and circumstances and social situations that the game places you in that you have to kind of figure your way out of. And I found myself having so much fun with the game when it came to the missions that didn't even involve any gunfights. Rather, it involved a lot of dialogue choices. Those for me were the best part of the game. Not to mention the parts of the game in the story where they take you to different environments and different parts of the city and the world. And it takes place in Night City. Didn't mention that. But yeah, I mean, the story is really compelling. It's plot threads and everything, and the endings, the multiple endings that you have. I mean, everything there is really nice in terms of Keanu Reeves' portrayal as Keanu Reeves' performance. It's very well done. You get the sense that he's a dickbag in this world. And as for the lore of everything, I mean, there's a ton of it. There's a ton to read, a ton to see, a ton to watch, a ton to investigate. The world itself is really compelling. Night City takes geographically is in California, but at this point in time in the world, California has been split into two different states, Northern California and Southern California. Night City being in Northern California, right in between LA and San Francisco, but it is it's the antithesis of a criminal underworld ruled by corporations. And so you get to see this depiction of the cyberpunk genre in a video game like never beforehand. And if you know the cyberpunk genre, you know that it involves a lot of AI technology, futuristic implementations from literature like Neuromancer, and this game, and the game itself is based in the world established by the Cyberpunk board games. So there's a lot of lore here and a lot that you can pick apart in terms of how they decided, in terms of where they decided to go with Cyberpunk. I mean, a lot of people might actually say that this game emphasizes sex and everything too much, but if you know the genre of Cyberpunk, the sexual revolution and stuff that was going on in the 1960s, 70s, then you know that this was the prime time for what was going to be inputted into the Cyberpunk genre. So this game actually gets that right in a lot of regards. So, I mean, yeah, the story itself matches the genre of Cyberpunk very well. It takes you throughout the entire world. The characters are great. The plot threads are great. And the more you play the game, the more side missions you do, the better the story gets for you. So you get in what you get out of it, what you put in. And that's really what I gotta say. I mean, the story is really, really good. It's nothing revolutionary or anything in comparison to like The Last of Us Part 2, in my opinion. But it's really, really good. It's really, really enjoyable. It doesn't really have any weak spots for me. In terms of the gameplay for Cyberpunk 2077, there's a lot here. So you have it's in first person, obviously. It's a first person shooter RPG. And there's a lot of gunfights. There's also a lot of hacking involved, and the skill trees are massive. Like, there's like so many different skill trees in this game. It's a little overwhelming. I'm a stickler for bad skill trees, and I really don't like skill trees. I kind of like when games, when you level up, the game naturally progresses your character strength, stamina, speed, and skills, and then you can unlock different abilities alternate ways. I don't really like skill trees in my opinion, and Cyberpunk is filled to the brim with them. They give you a ton of unlocks though to upgrade them, and not to mention that you have separate unlock points to upgrade the categories itself: intelligence, technology, body, yada yada yada. And it helps you feel a natural progression, but there's also a lot of kick-ass abilities and such that you wouldn't know where to find in the skill tree unless you really dig in deep. So you can miss a lot of things that would actually lend itself to being really useful for your game because of how compact these skill trees are. The first person shooting though is good. I really don't have any complaints there. Driving around the city, for me, the driving is horrendous. It feels worse than Grand Theft Auto 4 driving, where Grand Theft Auto 4 driving felt like you were driving on butter. This game feels like you're driving cardboard. The turns, the twists, the brakes, the speed, the acceleration of the way your car looks, just the way the cars sound, they're not very good. And this really sticks out if you're playing in third person. If you're playing in first person, then a lot of these things are amended. But I see a lot of people when they're streaming this game, they're actually driving in third person because it gives them more scope into seeing the world versus first person, where you have the interior of the car mostly in your way. So a lot of people lend themselves to playing in third person, and me especially, and I actually try to ride a motorcycle most of the time because of the mobility issues. But yeah, driving in this game isn't really good. So a lot of people might lend themselves to fast traveling, but the thing with fast traveling is that you don't get to see the rest of the world. There's a scope and a spectacle to this world, and we'll get to that with the graphical presentation category of this review, but it's enjoyable to see this world, and you want to drive and experience it and see everything it has to offer. And I will drive 5 minutes versus fast traveling. It just hurts because the driving's terrible. And then when it comes to the navigation of things, the mini map is in the top right hand corner, and you only have your little dotted lines to show you where you need to go and drive when you set a waypoint. But you would think in the world of Cyberpunk, when people have chips in their head and you can scan everything in your environment, which is another gameplay element in here that is used very often and pretty well. But you would think that since you have a chip in your head, you can scan everything in your environment, that you would at least have a waypoint system in your head too, which would lay out like a virtual line that would show you where to go. But no, in this game you have to literally look at the mini map in the top right hand corner, and it's so small that you'll miss turns so easily. So I've caught myself multiple times driving, and then I had to make a turn and I have to slow the brakes super slow, but because of the driving mechanics being so bad, and then me not knowing I had to make a turn so late, I always miss turns, and it's really annoying. It doesn't break the game per se, but it sticks out with everything the game gets right. The driving is just not very good. But yeah, let's talk about scanning stuff. I mean, this is in the hacking. You can do this on the fly, on the go. The more you upgrade it, the more it lays out. And I've caught myself doing it a lot of times, and I can see people who invest into the skill tree really just going ham with it. So it's definitely there for you to use, and it gives you the opportunity and the option to whether or not you want to invest in just being more of a brute force assault type of player or stealthy hacking type of player. It's done actually pretty well, better than other games such as Watch Dogs 1 and 2 in my opinion. I haven't played Legion, so I can't say anything about that though. There's a plethora of side missions, and they're all very well done. I love them all. The side activities that you can partake in, there's so much to do, like from like this own type of fight club type of thing, little bits of collectibles, like there's just so much to do. The gameplay loop does not get stale. It doesn't even feel like a loop. It feels like you're just on your own path. The gameplay is filled to the brim with fun. In terms of the graphical presentation of this game, it is stellar when it hits. Now the current build of this game because of the bugs, because of the glitches, because of how broken of a state it is in, this affects this category of the game heavily. For me personally, playing on an Xbox Series X, I didn't have game breaking issues, and I didn't have anything that pulled me out of the experience too often. There was a bunch of glitches I experienced, but nothing too intrusive. So for me personally, when this game was running at above a 30 FPS frame rate, when it was running near 60, probably 48 frames per second, and I had every texture loaded in, it looked incredible. The game felt so immersive. Like when I'm walking, you can tell that CD Projekt Red spent an enormous amount of time getting the city streets and overpasses, archways, underpasses, everything so detailed. Like I literally felt like I was in San Francisco playing this game, and that's not something I get from something like Grand Theft Auto. Even when you play GTA 4, when the whole thing is New York, it just doesn't lend itself to feeling like you're in a city the way Cyberpunk does. Cyberpunk, I'll be walking and there's this overpass of cars, and I see these cars going by, and I'm gonna walk under the underpass, and when I walk under the underpass, I automatically enter a different subsection of society where I see I can see the homeless rate, I can see the urban dirtiness of the area. I can see these neon lights get brighter because now we're in a darker subsection, and it feels colder and it feels drearier. And as soon as I step out of it, I can see the skyscraper cascading above the sky, and as I look up at it, I see its scale just get wider and wider and wider, and it's enormous. And that it makes up the sky, and then before I know it, I'm looking around me and doing a 360 view, and then all of these skyscrapers start popping up before I know it, because they've all been there, but you don't realize it unless you really focus on it, and it feels like you're in a city. Like there's so much I can say about the detail of the city. It's exceptional. The presentation is off the charts here. And the game also has its area outside of the city. When you're looking in at the city from the outside, it's even a different perspective that's fascinating to have. And the desert areas of the game feel like a wasteland in the way that California does, in its more natural sense. But there is so many texture load-ins and a lot of frame rate drops and a lot of choppiness that it can pull you out, and it messes with your perception of the presentation. It's like, is this game really beautiful, or was I just catching it in a good moment? And that's something to bear in mind. It probably will be patched, but that is just something to bear in mind. I want to reiterate, I understand the situation with Cyberpunk 2077 releasing this game on console, withholding footage of how it would run, especially on base Xbox One and PS4s. It not running well. I understand people wanting refunds. I understand people hammering the game. But this seems more of a corporate issue. The corporate enterprise, the people in the suits that wanted to push this game to be released, not the developers itself. The developers, CD Projekt Red pours their heart into their games. You can't play this game, play through it and not see the heart that they poured into it. With its current state though, that's no exception. But I don't want to just hammer this game because of its state. I had a wonderful experience with this game. And with that said, I'm giving Cyberpunk 2077 a 9 out of 10. If it had no bugs and everything was polished, it would be a 9.5 for me. But it is a 9 out of 10 still for me. And I play on an Xbox Series X. If I played this on a base Xbox One, then this would have been much lower, I'm sure. But that's my personal experience. So yeah, thank you for watching.